Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Patterson podcast. Today's guest is a man called Oleg Dmitriev. Oleg is the leader of a charity called Sunflower Scotland, who have been delivering aid to people who need it in Ukraine. The Oleg has done dozens of trips to Ukraine during the war, and he is just about to go again. I spoke to him just a couple of days before he's due to set off to bring aid and supplies to anybody who needs it, really. As you'll hear in the conversation, their organization is very agile. They figure out what is needed where, and then they just kind of find it as they go. It was a wild conversation speaking to Oleg. The work he's doing is just you'll hear in the conversation, the work he's doing is unbelievable. Obviously they're going to a war zone, and they're risking their lives to help people. And the way he describes what life is like and the grey zone, as he calls it, the area between the front line and about 40 kilometers away from that, there's still hundreds of thousands of people, or even millions of people, living in these combat zones. And there are drones, and there are the front line obviously moves sometimes. People are living on, they have £60 a month in pensions to live on, and it costs £40 to go and see the doctor. So some truly brutal conditions that they're living through, and Oleg is helping. So it's very inspiring. It's very cool. If you want to help his cause, you can find all the links to donate in the show notes. And yeah, it's very inspiring. It's also heartbreaking as well. The war is still going on. There's still so many people dying. There's still so many people being terribly wounded. And, there are plans for the end of the war that have been tabled again, but, who knows what's happening. So time will tell. But in the meantime, Oleg is on his way to Ukraine to deliver aid to people who need it. Very inspiring, very admirable work that he does, and I really, really enjoy speaking to him. So please enjoy my conversation with Oleg Dmitriev. Okay. Oleg.
Hi.
Hello. Thank you for sitting down with me today. Really, really looking forward to speaking with you.
It's a pleasure.
And your work is very impressive, very important. I suppose you have a quite unique perspective as well, and so I was just really curious about I just wanted to hear your story, really. So I appreciate you sitting down with me. Just to start with, could you explain to somebody who doesn't know who you are what work you're doing, and just give some of the kind of broader context, kind of bird's eye view?
Okay. So I'm the founding chairman.
Just hold this. The microphone is close. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm the founding chairman of Sunflower Scotland, a charity based in Edinburgh that is helping people in Frontline Ukraine. We have been running since the very start of the war. We did many mistakes, and the good thing about our small team is that we have learned. We have been learning all the time and changing to adapt to the change as we see it, because the war is always, there's always something different, and you need to be reacting to that. So now we developed a model for our charity, how we work. We source, or we get donated vehicles. Here in the UK, we get medical aid. We source medical aid from a number of hospitals, NHS trusts, charities, and then we take medical aid and some other types of aid as well into Ukraine, to the frontline areas, and we work directly with hospitals. We are supporting 11 hospitals in Ukraine, in frontline cities and towns, and we go there and we directly deliver our aid into the hands of the doctors.
Okay, so you said you started right at the beginning of the war. So can
I,
you tell me about what happened then?
you can imagine that people in Scotland were just shocked because of the very fact that the war was happening in Europe, pretty much on our doorstep, and that many people who we knew, who we worked with, were affected, and there was like an overall huge emotional wave of support towards Ukraine at the beginning of the war. And then people wanted to do something. We didn't really know what to do, how to do it, but we were just getting together in someone's houses, collecting, going around, collecting whatever we thought was right, clothing, food, some medicines, and putting them in the boxes, finding someone to drive it to Ukraine. We were finding lorries, and we were just raising money to pay to the lorry drivers to take the stuff we were collecting to Ukraine. So there was like maybe the first 3 or 4 months were like that. There was a lot of chaos. There was a lot of enthusiasm, emotional support from everyone. Uh, it was actually quite easy to get support, but we didn't really know what we were doing at that time. And I would say that we did some kind of naive mistakes, but equally we tried our best. We provided as much help as we could.
And so that was in 2022.
Yeah, it was 2022.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's actually quite. It's bizarre to think about it. It's almost 4 years.
Yeah, that is. When I think about that as well, that it's been going on for 4 years now, and an all-out war. Yeah, it is bizarre to think about.
Yeah,
Um,
and so many lives have been ruined,
yeah.
and so many people whose lives have been ruined, they're getting no help, and the people who are getting help is great, but we are kind of forgetting about the people who are not getting any help, and especially it's very painful to think that like many people or many countries are already saying like, well, it's kind of it's kind of all right, there are some negotiations going, so we shouldn't be doing anything, everything is being taken care of. That's not true. That's so untrue. People are suffering every day, and these negotiations are just like a big scam, and it's just a pretext, just an excuse to continue destroying people's lives.
So you think the ongoing geopolitical negotiations are a show or a sham?
Yeah, I think that is well, i- there are different aspects to that. Possibly just is a major deal where where some big political figures will get rich,
Mhm.
ultra rich out of it, maybe. But for a s- if you think about it, for simple people, right? They have been hurt a lot during the war, and there's nothing for them in this kind of negotiation. So I will give you an example. What people don't think about, right? So the occupied territories, the territories which have been occupied by Russia, in Mariupol, uh, Melitopol, and you know all villages and towns around that. They kind of the east bank of the Dnieper River. So what you have there is often no electricity, no water, very poor sanitation. People's houses are just taken, stolen by the new administration. Uh, people are people like living conditions have deteriorated actually. So after the territory has been occupied, so there's nothing really to look forward to for those people, and these territories will be in limbo, will remain in limbo like for long years. So when Russia is asking Ukraine to give up the territories of Donbas, well, can anyone in their sane mind just give up like hundreds of thousands of people who still live there and just say, yeah, I mean, we don't care what happens with you?
So it would be hundreds of thousands of people in the Donbass region.
Yeah,
That is the deal that's on the
that's the deal on the label. Is just basically whatever. It's like how can anyone just discuss a deal, right? But what about the people who live there? So who, I mean, it's like Ukraine you leave territory, but what about the people? Has anybody asked them what they want, or not even that, right? I mean, if you probably start asking people with a gun to their head, they will tell you something, but it's just so wrong. The whole idea of trading people like cattle. I mean, it is it's like a very medieval concept, of dealing, right? So this province goes to France, this province goes to Germany. Come on, people, we shouldn't be like that.
Mm-hmm. It's modern imperialism. It's just yes, this land is going to be given and traded, and the people more importantly.
Yeah, and people are like, okay, do I have any say in that? No.
So what is your connection with Ukraine?
My connection is I have family members in Ukraine. I have family members in Russia, so I understand the war in you know in more ways than one. So I don't do sunflower just because I'm like I want to, because like not because of the Ukrainian patriotism, right? I do it because I think it's a morally right thing to do. I think every person, every sane person should be doing something to stop this terrible war, to help people who have been affected by this horror. That's
And so, what are the goals of Sunflower? What are you trying to do, and how are you trying to help?
We are trying to help people who we encounter like on our trips, and we see how they suffer, and we're just trying to help. So whoever, it's not like whoever asks for help, but when we see some kind of genuinely bad situations somewhere developing, I come back, we try to assemble, gather some resources, find some help. So for example, we just did a delivery of clothing for wounded soldiers in one of the hospitals in Kharkiv. Um, I have been hearing about the really bad situation in hospitals for wounded soldiers, because when they're brought into hospitals, very often they're not from Kharkiv, or no, they're not from Kramatorsk, they're not from this place, right? So they are from somewhere far away. So they don't have any relatives who can bring them, basic supplies, necessities, toiletries, clothes. And if their clothes is stained with blood, it's often cut off and thrown away. So they need something else, something new, right? And so hospitals in Ukraine have been asking for T-shirts and like jogging bottoms and things like that for a long time. So we decided to do it, and we asked several churches in East Lothian and West Lothian to help us out with that, and we made a collection. We sorted everything. We prepared individual bags, and then we brought those bags to the hospital. We agreed with the hospital management to give us some time. They gave us a few hours, and I asked a few uh, chaplains in Ukrainian chaplains from a local church to help me with bags, and we just went through every ward, every department, every room, and we just gave everyone, every soldier, like their individual bag, and we gave everyone the same because we don't really want someone to be feeling, more or less appreciated than their neighbor, right? Um, so so how do we work really? So and we gather information w- from people, right? We're from uh, chaplains in a local church, from other soldiers, from people we speak with, and then we kind of try to prioritize those projects, and we say, okay, now it's time we do something about it. We try to help. So then the next one is, for example, now I found a really great business donor who helped us to buy 20 EcoFlow batteries. They are just like big lithium-ion batteries that you can use at your home to charge different, charge your laptop or charge your phone, or equally you can power your boiler actually for a few hours. So now it's winter time. Uh, the winter is is kind of starting to get really cold in Ukraine, and we know that there are some uh, foster families who look after many orphan children that they will be struggling, obviously, with electricity this winter, right? Or without electricity, right? So they will be, well, if you can imagine that you have, say, 10 children, right, in your apartment, and then you have no lights, no heating for the whole day, right? And one or two children are getting ill, they're sick, then it's like it's not great, right? So at least you want your heating on. You can't really run a generator. It's an apartment, so that's why we kind of, okay, let's bring them those batteries, which will help them to run their heating for for a few hours at least. Improve their standard of living. So can we help everybody? Obviously not, right? But can we help? Can we help at least somebody? Yes. And so we're trying our best to help as many people as we can. And I appreciate that we will not help everybody. But doing something is better than doing nothing.
So you are going back out again on Wednesday.
Aye.
What will you be doing? Where will you go, and what is the goal this time?
Yeah. So we'll go like through Kryvyi Rih, which is a big city in the central Ukraine. We will just buy locally some Christmas gifts for disabled children there, and we have been supporting a group of children with mental disabilities in the city for almost 2 years now. And I just want to do like a wee party for them, so they will all, look, they will all come with families, and we'll just give them some Christmas gifts and sweets, and then there will be an like a huge dressed up teddy bear dancing and singing. It will be some entertainment for the kids. After that, we are going to Kramatorsk, where we will give one of the two vehicles which we are bringing with us to to local soldiers, because as I explained to you, we use vehicles to bring supplies into Ukraine, and after we brought supplies, we just give them, donate them to the army. Uh, and after that, we will kind of end our mission north of Kharkiv. It's in the rural area, about 50 kilometers north of Kharkiv, where we will give the batteries to the orphans.
How do you decide where to go, where to deliver the aid, and who to help?
We have obviously already like a lot of local knowledge, so we know which where things are bad, and we kind of work from just prioritizing different needs of people who are really struggling there. For example, we have been supporting the same group of foster families who look after about 200 orphans in the area, and we did some deliveries of aid for them previously. For example, this summer we brought them jeans. We bought like jeans in Ukraine, and we just bought them jeans for the children, because children, they grow up, they need jeans all the time. It's not gonna change the world, but it was, I mean, it was a really massive support to the families. And it's actually quite hard, because I don't like dealing with used clothes for children, because imagine that, like, this kind of dealing with orphans and with foster families, they have actually quite many children they look after. Like, each family can have 5, 6, or even 10, or even 12, I think, orphans. So big families, yeah. And some of the children are traumatized, because the kind of the social services, they take those like children from their parents, because the parents have some problems, alcoholism, some home violence, all kind of nasty stuff happening, and then they take those children and try to find like another family to look after the child. So and they end up in those kind of foster families who are really, really big now. And imagine that you're coming to them with some help, right? So with some clothing, right? So you really want to have, you want every child to have something, right? You don't want, okay, you have something, but not you, right? So they're all traumatized. This will be really hard for the child. So you really want to. So we spent maybe a month just buying jeans for the children. It's actually it's quite hard. It takes a lot of time, but with it, with the help of people from Kharkiv, they help us out. Going to all the local markets and finding different sizes. But it was worth it. Obviously. So this just gives you an example that how we kind of we are on the ground. We know what's happening. Okay, this is one example, right? But then we work with with some local soldiers, right? And they tell us, oh no, we're getting more like the Russians are using like gas now, but we don't have any gas masks. Can you help us out? Okay, I try to find some gas masks here, in from a prepper shops in the UK.
Oh yeah.
So and things like that. So basically, you're always in communication. You always speak with people, and you always get different signals, and you learn.
So it sounds like your organization is quite agile. You're kind of adapting to what the situation is in Ukraine, and then you're trying to solve the problems as they arise.
That's correct.
Yeah. What can you speak at all as to what life is like? I'm sure it's different, maybe in Kiev compared to in Kharkiv. What is day-to-day life like in Ukraine at the moment?
I mean, you can imagine that, as you say, things are very different in big cities.
Mhm.
From And then you have small towns are different, and obviously the further you to the front, the closer to the front line you go, the worse it becomes. I can just okay. Let me try to explain. So you have about maybe 40 40 kilometer, which is like 25-mile kind of zone near the front line, all across the front line from north to south, where things for the like for the rural population, for villages, is very, very hard, very hard. So what you have there is, because of the drone activity
Mhm.
recently, the drones can now pretty much cover 40 kilometers or even more sometimes. But 40 is kind of, you will not be surprised to see an FPV or a kamikaze drone within this range. It means that any piece of machinery, like a van, a truck, a private car, can be hit and can be blown up by a drone, by a Russian drone. So because of that, people with money, people who are like who can find work elsewhere, they have moved out some time ago. So what you have in those areas, as I said, about 25-mile kind of like stretch of area all along the front line. So what you have is vulnerable people who remain there, pensioners. You have people with disabilities, people with like mothers with small children, and who don't have like a marketable skill, who cannot find a job. You have women looking after the elderly or looking after a disabled relative. So basically, you have different shapes of vulnerable people, right, who remain in those villages. And they are reluctant to move out as well. What happens over time is that like people's brains normalize the danger, right? So when they hear the bangs of the explosions and the artillery and the missiles and drones, everything, so they kind of getting used to that. And sometimes you have villages which are almost destroyed, and then there will be a few families still staying there and still refusing to go. The main problem with those people who remain in this 25-kilometer zone, a 25-mile zone, is that they have almost no money. They cannot afford to move out. And we are talking about hundreds of thousands of people, maybe a couple million people in this kind of in this rural, dangerous zone. We used to, as Sunflower, we used to spend a lot of resource supporting a few villages. I think we were at the peak supporting about 15 villages, just going regularly to the villages and giving them some food, some other supplies. Actually, like footwear was absolutely required because always need footwear. And yeah, we were buying like wellies, and just bringing wellies as and food. But we stopped doing that because the drones are now such a terrible danger for the people and for the volunteers as well. I just cannot justify sending volunteers to those areas because it's like a suicide mission. And there are more and more charity workers or humanitarian workers who are just saying, people, it's enough, leave, evacuate. We know it's your home. We know that you don't want, but find a way, leave. We used to support them. Now, from this year, I changed my mind. I said we don't want to encourage them to stay because every delivery of food, every delivery of bread just encourages them to stay and to provoke danger for themselves and for the people who are helping them. This is very terrible, actually. This is like absolutely dreadful for the people. They just like some elderly couple living in a village, and they're just absolutely on their own. Nobody cares for them. So think about that. For them, actually, just to give you like an idea, right? Specific numbers. One of the Khromaras, or Khromara is like a self governing kind of body of several villages. Um, in the northeast Kharkiv region. From there to get to Kharkiv for medical examination, some medical procedure, because like old people, they actually have chronic diseases. They need actually to, to visit the doctor once in a while. So for that, just one trip cost 2,000 hryvnia, which is about 40 pounds. Okay, because they need to pay someone to actually take them because there's no bus, right? It's like a war zone. There's no bus, right? The state has said like, okay, we're not servicing, we're not providing services to this area. It's too dangerous for us, for the drivers. We're like, okay, we're out. So 40 pounds, and their monthly pension is 60 pounds. Okay, so you go to see the doctor once, and then you have nothing to eat, and because you have to pay for electricity, for whatever gas in your apartment or in your house, which is like basically they have priced out of life. This is terrible, right? And if they choose to move out, if they choose to become internally displaced persons, like IDPs, right? They are getting the people who are agreeing to become IDPs. They're getting about 60 pounds per month as a pension, right, from the state. To rent like a 2-bed apartment somewhere in a safe part of Ukraine, West Ukraine, you're speaking about maybe 8 to 10,000 hryvnia per month, which is 200 pounds. Okay, you're getting 60, and it costs you 200 just to rent an apartment. Just doesn't compute. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, it's not possible. That's why they're not moving. Because like they say, okay, well, I just cannot afford to move. First, I don't have any money. Then if I move out, I mean, where am I gonna go? And the whole world is like ignoring that, which I think is this is one of the biggest learnings, which I think we should take from this war. Any other war, I think if you kind of think about it, will be quite similar. Maybe there will be differences, but I think vulnerable people remain close to the front line because A, they don't have the money, B, because the existing support mechanisms are not allowing them to just financially just to move out. People are not stupid, right? If you give them a chance, if you give them a way, they will leave.
But they just don't have a choice.
They don't have the means.
Yeah.
So of course you will have a small percentage of Russian loyalists, of crazy people. I don't know, 5, 10, 15% will be doing some strange decisions. Yeah. But 85, 90% will happily leave. But they just have no. Yeah, they can't. Yeah. And the problem for us is that we already cannot really support them because it's like too dangerous for. I mean, it's a little bit beyond what humanitarians should do, really, because the front line itself, it was like a very pretty much like a very narrow line between the two armies. Now, what you can see if you look at the like open source maps, like a deep state map, you often see this gray zone. So this gray zone, it becomes wider and wider because this is where there's no definite control, and there's all kinds of terrible things happen in the gray zone.
By the gray zone, do you mean the area of just intense conflict?
This is a zone where nobody knows who controls it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The front line is so massive as well that it just this huge, is it hundreds or maybe even over 1,000 kilometers?
I think it's about 1,500. Yeah.
1,500 kilometer front line, and as you said, just within that, I didn't know there was the 40 kilometers that you just have hundreds of thousands or maybe millions of people living in, and it's just a front line of just. There's the documentary that you were part of. Is it Sunflower? What was it called again?
Sunflowers in the Rain.
Sunflowers in the Rain. Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't exclusively about us. It was
Sure.
actually about mostly about other people, but we took part as well.
Watching that, some of the takeaway, just the and obviously of all the photos and videos that are available, but just the level of destruction is just absolutely, it's just heartbreaking, but it's just so shocking as well. Just that Russia has just absolutely leveled so much of Ukraine, and then there's people still living in those areas as well. I literally cannot imagine what it's like and what the people are going through, and how do people survive if, as you say, that they have so little, like £60 a month? How do you see people surviving? How can they possibly keep going? It's been 4 years as well.
Yeah, they have their allotments where they grow some vegetables. It's a really terrible life, and you shouldn't forget that before they had some medical support. Now they don't have that because the state services have been withdrawn.
Mhm.
So you don't have a doctor. You the volunteers and actually the kind of local administrations are organizing mobile medical units, and they try to visit, but it's not the same, right? Including dentistry, but it's not the same. It's just obviously you cannot pack the whole hospital into a van, and drive this van because you obviously you cannot provide the same kind of the required width of different procedures. That's why you have Kherson, where people just wouldn't leave because they need the services from the local hospital.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is terrible, and Kherson is another example. So uh, Kherson is an absolutely horrific like example what wartime life can be, because what you have there is still about 65,000 people remain in this city. It used to be a city the size of Dundee, roughly, but they have more high-rise buildings, so it's a little bit, it looks a bit different. Um, what you have there is that uh, in the like from morning till night, 24/7, like drones just fly into the city and just find somebody, like a vehicle, a person. If they find a soldier, they will kill a soldier. If they don't find a soldier, they will kill somebody else. They will kill a woman, a child, a person waiting for a bus. Doesn't matter, like anybody, right? So this is the idea of the kamikaze drone, right? So kamikaze drone, it only makes one voyage one way, right? So it has to find a target on the other end and blow it up and kill it. So on those drones, how they work, they just they're like a small drones, about 11 inches in diameter, and they can carry, it's a very powerful technology. They can carry like something as a hand grenade or another type of explosive, which is like military explosive, which has been like DIY, reworked mm, to be connected to the drone, and when a drone hits the target, it explodes, and the pieces of shrapnel, pieces of the metallic casing, they just fly in all directions and kill everybody. So those like drones, they just fly every 5-10 minutes. When when I'm in Kherson, I kind of always check the updates on a local Telegram channel. Every 5 to 10 minutes, you have it like spotting of a new drone, and people just
Every 5 minutes.
yeah. So every few minutes, you have a new spotting of a drone in like different parts of the city, where people are just saying, just beware, take cover. The drone is spotted in your area.
Are they being? Is somebody flying them? Are they being piloted
Yeah.
by?
Yes.
There is
Yeah.
a pilot.
Yeah. There's a pilot. So there are like Russian soldiers
Mhm.
flying those drones and killing people. But that's not drones. It's not all. Then about say after breakfast, then there's a barrage of gliding bombs. Then maybe a couple of ballistic missiles every day. Now, United 24, which is it's like an online journalism project. They called it Human Safari. They called what's the situation that's happening in Kherson is they and I think this phrase describes what's happening in Kherson really really well. Human Safari. Now it is in the killing is indiscriminate, so just they kill everybody, and it's actually it's actually very scary if you think about it, because part of what's happening is already powered by AI.
Mm.
Um, so already those like drones, the killer drones, what they do is after they have identified the target, then they just capture the target, and if a person or a car moves, it just continues tracing this car and just continues chasing it until it hits it. So this job is already done by artificial intelligence. So the Terminator 2 Judgment Day is already here. I mean, it's eh, I'm trying to explain this, but mm, like it's a piece of sci-fi, but it's not. It's actually happening, and you can go there, and you can and well, you can go there if you have a good reason to be there. Let's put it like this. So, like we try to help. We do help a few hospitals in Kherson. Uh, we work with doctors directly. So we ask doctors, what do you need? They tell us what they need. Uh, we just go to the NHS Scotland, NHS in England as well, and we ask, can we please have this? And sometimes yes, sometimes no, but we try to kind of to find the things which they need. I mean, it's medical stuff, right? It will be
Like what kind of stuff?
catheters, bandages, nothing super fancy, to be honest, like surgical tools.
Mm-hmm.
So things which are quite normal, and rehabilitation equipment as well, because there's a rehabilitation clinic in Kherson. And what I was really shocked to learn is that when the Russians had like control over Kherson for about half a year in 2022. So from the end of February until September, and when they were retreating, they just stole everything, including like gym machines which are used for physiotherapy. So the physiotherapy clinic, it was empty, right? So they just had nothing, and it was what 3 years. Nobody really found the possibility or money
Mm.
to buy or to bring new gym machines for them. If you think about it, like why was I mean, this is a question I cannot answer. Why do you need a small Scottish charity to you know to be able to kind of to go and do this kind of things? But I mean, they just told us about that they had no machines, and we sourced them. And actually, I just wrote to like people who were selling their machines here in Edinburgh on Gumtree. I said, "Can you please donate your machine to us? Because we are going to Kherson and this is what it's for." And some people said, "Yeah, just come and pick it up." And that's what we did. We picked up those machines. I put them in a van, drove it to Kherson, and gave it to the hospital. And we already have videos from the hospital which show how soldiers, with like wounds and after basically they have suffered some injuries, how they're getting back to normal life, how they're moving, how they're using the machines.
That's fucking awesome, man. That is such. Oh man, that is just what. I mean, it is heartbreaking. It is absolutely heartbreaking to hear. But
Look, so think about it like this. So you kind of do this help like from a plane like flying at 30,000 feet above ground and just drop things, and hope that some aid we should drop from the high altitude will just land where it should.
Yeah.
You have to be there. You have to speak with it. Like you have to speak with a particular doctor, because she, what she told me. Can you buy some tapes, that for like used in the gym, when you kind of do some stretching or something. Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, but why? Well, we have a problem. We cannot find them in Kherson. Nobody sells them in Kherson, right? So I bought them some like tapes from Amazon. And she said, not this. This is not really what we need. Because like they are synthetic. People like some like soldiers, when they apply them, they get sweaty. It's very hard to remove them. So can you like buy like cotton tape? Yeah, I found a brand that does 100% cotton. So I brought. She was very happy, right? But you need to work at a very very fine kind of level of details to give them exactly what they need, because if you give them something else, they will smile and they will shake your hand and throw it in the bin.
Yeah, it's just useless. Why, as you said, why does it take us a small charity in Scotland to do this work? Why is that the case?
I think I think because the like big our like the big guys, our humanitarian system that we have, DEC, Red Cross, United Nations, they were designed, I don't know, 70 years ago, like, yeah, about that, yeah, after the Second World War. And when they were designed, people who were, building them thought that this is how it's going to be. But the war which we have today is different. I think what I see from DEC is that they're actually very busy. So it's not that the Red Cross is doing something useless. Yeah, they are 100% busy all the time, but they can only cover that much. So they don't go into this kind of little projects, right? So they just try to cover the kind of the big things, such as food deliveries, or just building some centers for refugees. But there's so much little work that needs done, and so which they just don't have the resource for. I think overall, what we underestimate is war is such a huge and such a huge tragedy, right? And you need the resources which we provide, humanitarian resources, are totally inadequate for the scale of the disaster.
So what is being provided is just not enough, and also because these organizations are so big, they can't be agile enough to deliver the.
Yeah, I think that is yeah, possibly true. Yeah. Also, if you think about it, the I mean, we shouldn't really be going towards like, okay, let's remake Red Cross or the United Nations World Food Program. Let's make it 10 times bigger. What we really need is to just drag people out of the danger zone as quickly as possible. We need to provide means for that, because if you do that, then you don't have the need to ship humanitarian resource into the danger areas, because they will be kind of free from people who are suffering there. So there is a problem that I think that if you kind of think about every war that you have this, so you have hospitals and injured and vulnerable people in danger areas, and you're trying to support them. You're kind of trying to keep them on life support, and you're sacrificing your your humanitarian resource this way. All you need to do is actually just to get the people out.
Mhm.
But I have not heard anybody speaking about it.
Well, here we are. Obviously the civilian situation is just. I mean, that is just absolutely brutal. I cannot imagine what that is actually like in real life. But then there's also you've also provided some aid to some of the soldiers as well that have been injured on the front line and wounded. What kind of support have you given them?
So about the soldiers, yeah, we we s- we started supporting soldiers in hospitals. As I was saying to you earlier, that we provided them like sets of fresh new clothing and toiletries, which obviously everybody needs when when they're in a hospital. But it's very important for soldiers who are not from this city or town where the hospital is. So we just did a pretty big project in Kharkiv. So one thing is that I'm really proud of is that thanks to the help which we received from local communities here in Scotland, is we were able to gather enough resources, enough supplies to give every soldier in the hospital received a personalized packet from us. So like no one was left behind. So every soldier in every ward received uh, a like a bag with a pair of jogging bottoms, two t-shirts, size L or XL, um, like a bag of disposable razors, a tube of toothpaste, and a toothbrush. Like essentials.
Mhm.
Yeah, but absolutely, not everybody has it.
Mhm.
So, of course, people are not like lying naked, right? So they, in the hospital, they will try to find some some clothing for something for them, right? But it's like all is like worn, shabby, it's not nice and not always clean. So, I mean, it's not great, but
But
yeah,
when you don't have toothbrush and you don't have jogging bottoms, it must just be an absolute godsend.
yeah, exactly. And this is like persons like private possessions.
Mhm.
They will take it with them. I mean, this is it's just totally different from using someone using kind of your neighbor jogging bottoms.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, and the problem why hospitals don't have enough supplies of their own is because the medical system in Ukraine is actually quite good, but it never prepared for such a massive scale of people with trauma, injuries, wounds. The whole hospitals are overwhelmed with wounded soldiers. Um, an acquaintance just had was injured a few days ago Dnipro. He was driving in a car when the missile hit one of the buildings, and he received an injury, like a wound from a piece of shrapnel in the head. And they're saying in the hospital that they will not operate on him because because he's not critical, right? There's a queue of other people who are much worse. They're just saying, doctors are just saying that, yeah, you are not, it's not like life or death for you. You can wait, right? Um, so, and these are, you can imagine these like waves of like, there will be a new attack tomorrow. There will be like a new missile tomorrow. A new building will be blown up and tomorrow, and there will be a new wave of wounded people.
Are the soldiers in? Is there any differentiation between like military hospitals and civilian hospitals, or are the soldiers in civilian hospitals as well?
You had about in like 22, 23. The what was happening is that like wards in some hospitals in cities were dedicated to the military use, and this would be like a military, like a wing or like a building would be like just for soldiers, and everybody else, all other building could be like for like the civilian use. Now you have it's like you have so many wounded soldiers now. They're just everywhere.
Again, I can't imagine the scale. Just as you said, a war like that, just the number of people that are injured and killed. It just
Yeah, yeah, and so civilians and military soldiers. Well, one thing about soldiers, right? When we think, well, soldiers, they're just like normal people who were mobilized maybe like 2 weeks ago, right? Just got some training, sent out to the front line, and then like 2 weeks later, back in the hospital with a, with a piece of shrapnel in their chest.
mhm. Just going from a normal life to suddenly,
Yeah,
as you said, just like a sci-fi
and it can be,
Terminator.
yeah, it could be like a bus driver who took you to work in the morning, right? And then they got mobilized 2 weeks later. They're back, with their like leg blown off.
Mhm.
Mm. So we support. By the way, we support a really good rehabilitation center in Dnipro, and they specialize in helping people who have suffered all the worst trauma and amputation, and who have lost their arms and legs. And this rehabilitation center, they not only give kind of physiotherapy, but they teach people how to use a prosthetic arms and legs, and how to fight, how to live and overcome the the pain which is in the arm or leg which isn't there, like
Mhm.
phantom pains.
Yeah, phantom limb syndrome.
Yeah. So and they have invented to use VR, like virtual reality. Yeah, and they put people in the virtual reality, and where they actually have like an arm or leg, like they're like a full body, right? And this helps uh, the person to kind of to overcome the syndrome. It's really amazing.
That is unbelievable.
Yeah. So I would say that in terms of like this support rehabilitation, Ukraine is so far ahead from from us, from anybody else in the world, because they are not just using like the old school kind of machines, but they also applying like kind of futuristic technologies like virtual reality.
How many times now have you been to Ukraine during the war?
I've not counted. I guess. Well, I would say like 25, maybe roughly 25 trips in total, but every trip is not a trip where we go to Lviv, we bring aid and come back. It's not like that, right? So every trip is a few weeks, and we visit different locations. I call every dedicated aid delivery a mission. So we have done 112 missions to date.
112 missions.
Yeah, so different places, villages, cities, towns, delivering stuff and helping people. I always try to give aid directly into the hands of the end user, because this way we can actually receive immediate feedback if that is helpful, going to be helping in any way, and what else they need. And I always give them my phone number and say, if you need something else, like especially with doctors, if it's very important, because they may tell me that, oh, we may need something like this, but then I sometimes I get something from an NHS trust, and they give me something, and I take picture and I send it to a few doctors and said, do you need this? And not, by the way, not everybody needs everything. So this is like a very important thing, which people don't really understand, is that like so-called mixed medical doesn't really work.
What does that mean?
So quite often you have, when you collect medical aid, right? So you get, like, sometimes you get boxes with stuff, right? Basically what it is so in a ward, like medical waste or things which are out of date or going to be out of date very soon, they just thrown into a box. A few boxes are sealed and sent to charity for Ukraine. So this doesn't work, okay? Because in Ukraine, doctors refuse to take stuff which they don't need, right? You can send mixed medical to like a warehouse somewhere, hoping that it'll be sorted by somebody sometime later and given to whoever needs it. It's not. It's like a wishful thinking. So you need to really like sort things. You need to sort by department, by application, and you really need to filter out all the out of date stuff, because doctors in Ukraine, medicine in Ukraine is like medicine in the UK, right? So very high standards. You cannot really use out of date items in a live patient. They have kind of the same standards. So, and then because we have a slightly different like namings of stuff, right? I have to send pictures and send to the doctor and say, do you really, can you confirm that you want this? And they review it, and sometimes they say, okay, yes, this we need that, or like, no, or they say, we need that in general, but do you have a similar thing with a slightly like bigger, tube or something? And if I say no, they say, well, thank you very much, but no. So collecting and sorting medical items is actually it's a very demanding job. And you have to speak with multiple doctors, and you really need to kind of agree with them what they need. And, and then I prepare like, individual boxes for them. I color code them with the different color packaging tape. Okay, these few boxes are for this hospital, those boxes are for another hospital, and then we go there and we visit one hospital, we get this boxes to the doctor, and then we just have a conversation and they tell us what they need, and then we carry on to another hospital.
That is, and you said when you had the physiotherapy equipment that you kind of found it on Gumtree and then loaded it in the van and then just drove it there. Do you always drive? Are you always driving parcels and boxes?
Yeah, I mean, we have a team of, say, about three like three like boys in different age, but this is our core team, and then we have like other people joining us from time to time.
How big is the team? How many people do you have involved in?
In like overall about like maybe 10, but yeah, our core team is like 3 or 4, and then we have we add others, but we don't want to have like a huge team. We don't want to have people we don't know, because we have had issues with people before, and yeah, we just we try to kind of cultivate good relationship with the our volunteers, so that they should be comfortable with us, and likewise it should be just working for everybody. And we don't do crazy like drives. Like we don't like drive 3 days, non-stop, sleeping in the cars. We don't do that. Especially in Ukraine, we sleep in hotels, and I think it's important to have for the team to be properly rested, because fatigue causes injuries. Fatigue causes accidents, and this you may be lucky once, but if you like do it continuously, I mean you should just build a process, really.
Yeah, it needs to be sustainable.
Aye.
Yeah. And what are the stories of some of your team members? Why do they do the work?
Obviously, we all share the kind of common feeling that war is absolutely terrible, and we're trying to help people. Yeah, this is what drives us. That we just want to do good for the people, and yeah, we have had a couple of cases when we had like someone like more interested in joining the army in Ukraine, and using us as a way to get into Ukraine, and then like sign a contract or something. But actually, as I said, it's it doesn't really work with people who have uh, some like crazy ideas. They usually there's usually something. I really don't want to say there's something wrong with them, but they're running.
Something going on, yeah.
Yeah, they're running from something. They're running from their demons, and it's not the right way. And people actually in Ukraine, like people like recruitment officers in Ukraine, they see that as well. They have seen all sorts of British and American volunteers with all kinds of internal kind of
Imagine what
and like who are thinking that joining the army and getting a rifle is the best solution to their problems. It's not. Yeah. So this is why we're not actually trying to expand our team massively, because it comes with risks.
Yeah, stay small and agile, and people you trust.
Yeah, we don't need to be like, we don't need a huge team, to be honest.
Yeah. So you'll go now on the 12th. You said you're going to leave. How long will you be there for?
For a couple of weeks. I'm hoping to come back just before Christmas.
Yeah, I was going to say. Yeah.
So my marriage depends on us.
And you have children as well, no?
Yeah,
Yeah.
two boys.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm sure you would want to be home for Christmas.
Of course. Yeah.
And then going forwards, I think today, on the day we're recording the podcast, Zelensky's in London. He's meeting with Macron and Starmer and Merz to discuss. There's another plan on the table, or another peace plan. I think as we said earlier, it's to kind of just hand over the Donbass to Russia. I suppose maybe an impossible question to answer, but do you have any insight into what the future holds? Will you just keep running these missions until as long as you can? Do you have any? Can you make plans into the future? Can you have a strategy like that, or do you just have to take it one mission at a time?
I think one thing that I have learned is that you really need to adapt always, because as I was saying that in the beginning we were sending like lorries full of stuff. The problem is that those lorries were not reaching anywhere, so they were unfortunately, and they were unloaded in West Ukraine, and only a fraction of that humanitarian aid made it to the frontline areas. And we then after that there was a long period when we said, okay, we just taken over the whole supply chain. We just taking the whole delivery like mechanism all the way to the end user. So only this way we are able to guarantee that 100% of our aid reaches the people like who need it, who are really suffering. But this is when we worked and we were supporting villages in the frontline areas, and then eh, villages became unviable because it became just too dangerous for volunteers. I just cannot justify sending my people, to die, right? But then I said, okay, what? Obviously, there was a problem at that time with the hospitals, and the hospitals were asking us to, can we have this, can we have that, t-shirts, as I was saying, like clothing for the wounded soldiers, and some types of medical supplies. And then we kind of refocused on the kind of medical supplies. What will be the next thing? I don't really know, because we are a little bit driven by the technological revolution. What's happening with like drones completely taking over the battlefield? I mean, is people in the UK just cannot imagine. I remember speaking with someone here, in Scotland, about the strength of our military, and this man was saying, "Oh yeah, we would, like NATO, like us, Britain, we would just, we would just destroy the Russians." And like, yeah, I'm afraid I really don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but maybe not. Maybe they are technologically so different now. Maybe the war is so different now. Maybe we're so unprepared, and that we just don't have any ways and means to defend ourselves anymore. And all our, like, the big boats like destroyers and air carriers are useless now. All our tanks are useless. That those tanks, like, I think it was this morning or yesterday, a column of 12 tanks, Russian tanks, drove into Pokrovsk, and they were all burnt in a matter of, I don't know, less than an hour. So these old technologies don't really work already as they used to. So maybe we, as a society, we need to rethink what's going on, and that's why we have this kind of really valuable insights into what's going on. But of course, not on the kind of, with a bit of a, we kind of have like a bit of a military understanding, because you are in the war zone, right? But most of it is just the humanitarian, how the society, how the life has changed for communities in in a country where the war is happening. And this, like, Ukraine is very European, right?
Mhm.
um it, and yeah, so how life would change in Europe if there was a war tomorrow. So that's quite, it's quite a unique understanding. And just to answer your question directly, we don't know exactly, but one thing is we will definitely change.
Mm.
So I don't want to name names, but there are some charities today in Scotland who keep doing what we were doing back in 2022. And it's like, no, guys, things are so different. Uh, I mean, we all need to evolve, you know, evolve or die.
So it's just not effective anymore. As you said, we're putting things in lorries and driving them there, but they would get to the west of Ukraine and they just would not get to the front lines where they were most needed.
Yes. It's very simple. It's a very simple math, right? Let's say you're sending like 15 tons of supplies. To bring 15 tons um, from a city in West Ukraine to the front line, you need in terms of like the cost of fuel, hiring small vehicles, because you cannot really drive like big lorries there. It's not viable, too dangerous. So you're speaking about maybe 10-15,000 pounds of additional investment. If you're sending a big lorry with 10-15,000 pounds on top, then you can speak about distributing it. If not, then your aid will not travel further because there's simply no money for it to do it.
And so, what is the most effective way? How do you deliver it properly?
Uh, well, one thing for sure is that the closer you get to the front lines, the fewer the people are there, right? So you don't need that like massive volumes. Um, you need to really focus on like solving some particular problems and be good at it,
Mhm.
right? So you cannot just solve everything. One thing that I recommend very, very strongly is that if you're dealing with food, buy food locally in Ukraine. It's much cheaper. Ukraine is at the breadbasket of Europe. Do not send food from Britain. It's too costly. It's not effective. It's just a waste of money. Um, you can buy much more food for the same amount of money back in Ukraine. Um, then another thing is why do I advocate for small projects? Is because when you operate in dangerous areas, you have to be very highly trained and highly experienced.
Mhm.
You cannot send. Well, I think it's immoral to send people who are not trained, not equipped to deliver aid. Uh, Unfortunately, there will be Ukrainian volunteers who would agree, who would even want to deliver aid into dangerous areas, risking their own life, but who don't have proper training, who don't have bulletproof vest, helmet, and even like a first aid kit, or don't know how to use their first aid kit, and they don't have a proper vehicle for that. So I think that's not right. I mean, the reason why like we do it because our team, we are trained to provide first aid. I have like two first aiders on the team, and we use like proper 4x4 vehicles to actually deliver aid. So my van, which I'm using is like a heavy duty ex ambulance 4x4 van. So you just have to have proper gear and you have to have proper training and you have to have proper procedures and risk assessments. And because if you're sending a lorry full of stuff into Ukraine and I say, okay, guys, you just go, distribute it, take it to the front line, you are just sending people to get killed, like like pigs to the slaughterhouse. I
So
mean,
a big lorry would just be a target. It would just a drone was.
no, yeah, I mean, obviously they will just deliver a lorry to somewhere in West Ukraine and then just reload into smaller vehicles and
Yeah.
just drive smaller vehicles to wherever in the Sumy, in Kharkiv, in Kherson, and in the more dangerous kind of zones. But uh, I I insist that if you do that, you need to make sure that the people who you're employing for that job are properly kitted, properly trained, and properly prepared. And if not, I mean, like, are you a humanitarian or what? I mean, it's not right. Uh, I'll I will try not to fume too much, not to be too emotional about it because I am like no. I mean, the thing is, like in Ukraine, it's very hard to get volunteers who will actually deliver stuff to the front line because people are not stupid. People realize that it's very, very dangerous. And because of the drones, that I can tell you only like a handful of people who are really like doing that now. There used to be many more.
If somebody wants to help you to do the work that you're doing, how do they do that?
Number of ways. If they work in the medical sector, if healthcare, the NHS, or private healthcare, please consider partnering with us to provide supplies which you don't need, to like end of life supplies, not out of date, but end of life supplies, or medical equipment which can be used, which you can donate for Ukraine. Um, if you work in a garage, please consider helping us to repair cars. We work with two really great, really good garages. One is Lorries Autos here in the Edinburgh City Center, and another is Array Commercials in Pennycook, and they deal with like commercial transport, vans and bigger like lorries, and anything big, right? But sometimes we just we have a lot of work to do, not enough time, and any garage that can help us, I'd really appreciate that. Um, so and yeah, please consider donating. If you have stuff which we need, when like items which we need when we're collecting them, please consider donating them. Um, if you don't have, please consider donating money and supporting us with like a donation. If you can just set up a standing order, or use you can donate by card with a subscription on our website. Please do that. If not, a one-off donation would be really appreciated. So if you have a vehicle which you don't need, we would take it to Ukraine. We would fully comply with the law here in the UK and in the Ukraine. We will fix the vehicle before going. We would make sure it has MOT, insurance, all the proper certification, all the proper paperwork, and yeah. We just we are a registered charity, and we work by the book. We don't cut corners, and yeah, and just support us with prayers. That's also important.
And how do people find you? How would they
Uh,
do
I would
it?
say, yeah, just a bit of say social media, but word of mouth. I think we've been around for as long as the big war has been going on, and people know us. Sometimes people find us and they ask us to do some crazy things, and I explain to them that this is like, please don't do it, and they get very upset. One thing that triggers me is dog food. Absolutely triggers me. So like, or rescuing some specific breeds of dogs, like expensive breeds of dogs. Like, we want to rescue expensive dogs from Ukraine. Like, do you know that there are children dying, and that there are like elderly people who have no means to escape, like absolutely horrific kill zones, and we are not helping them because we don't have the means, and you are spending all the money to rescue some expensive dogs. I get it, animals are suffering as well, but okay, but you need to prioritize.
Surely, yeah. So people are.
Oh yeah, I mean sometimes, and I tell them and I tell them something which is like very direct, and they get upset, and I get upset as well. So but hey, come on. Yeah.
Yeah, fucking hell, man. Dogs, bro. I know, I love dogs as well, but
Yeah.
Jesus, surely there's.
It's like we need to prioritize. Well, as you mentioned, the war is just a really horrific place. As you were mentioning yourself, um, the volume, the like, you go to some villages, like every house has been destroyed, and there are still people, you know, digging the rubble, trying to rebuild half of their home. I mean, like sometimes, most of the time, like elderly, old, really old people in their 70s or 80s trying to rebuild their home, like one room where they can still sleep. And it's like November, and we're just driving through as quickly as possible because, like one more minute there and, we'll be killed. I mean, and then like dogs, and I like dogs, I have a cat, but, I, I'm not against dogs. Yeah. So it's not the cat and dog the situation is like, it's more like a humanitarian. I have a humanitarian excuse.
Yes. I don't think anyone will be objecting. And if anyone is, then they can fuck off. So, well, Oleg, thank you for speaking with me today. That's the work you're doing is crazy, man. Huge respect for it. I really admire it, and yeah, it's a amazing thing to be doing.
Thank you, Ross. I want to use this like opportunity just to say my like words of like absolute respect to everybody who is supporting Ukraine, who's supporting our work, and supporting other charities, because without everyone's support, mm, people will be just desperate, and it will be much worse. So absolutely, everyone's contribution is really appreciated, and it's very important.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you for your time, Oleg. And if you ever want to return as well, if you ever have a message you want to get out, you're always welcome back on the podcast.
Thanks, Ross. That's really cool.
Cool. Thank you, man.